If you're the kind of real estate agent who has tried hundreds of different lead generation strategies, this video is for you. It's not because you need another idea, but because you may need a better way to make one idea actually work. I see this all the time in coaching. Agents like to try different things like expireds, for sale by owners, open houses, social media. Handwritten notes, database calls, and whatever else someone on stage or online said was working. The problem is not that these strategies are bad. Most of them can work and actually work pretty well. The problem is that the agent never turns the strategy into a repeatable process. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 steps to make one real estate lead generation strategy work before you start chasing another one. We are going to talk about how to choose it, define it, commit to it, track it, and protect it from every shiny object that shows up along the way. Let's get into it. The first step is to pick one strategy, but I want to define that clearly because pick one can sound a little vague. Picking one does not mean you randomly choose something because you heard it worked for another agent. It means that you choose one lead generation strategy that fits your current business, your current skill set, the type of client that you're trying to attract, and your current schedule. For example, if you have already a decent sphere of influence, but you're not talking to them consistently, then database calls or SOI follow-up might be the most logical place to start. If you're newer and don't have a large database yet, then maybe building a database by really leveraging open houses might make more sense because they put you in front of people you don't know faster. Another example is if you are comfortable on camera and willing to play the long game, then social media content could be the right strategy, but only if you understand that 6 posts or 6 videos is not a real test. You got to go longer than that. This is where agents mess up. They pick a strategy based on excitement instead of the right fit. They hear one agent say that expireds changed their business, so they try calling expired listings. Then they hear another agent say that open houses are just crushing it, so they move to opens. And then they keep going down the line. They hear content's the future, so they're trying to become like the local YouTuber. A while back, I coached an agent who was staying at the office until like 9 or 10 o'clock at night after everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet, motion sensor lights just kept shutting off, and she was sitting there writing her handwritten notes to her sphere of influence. So just imagine you have a finished stack on one side, a blank stack on another side, and you've got this massive writer's cramp. The notes itself are not the problem. Handwritten notes to your sphere can be a great idea. I want agents deepening relationships with their database. But when handwritten notes become your 7th lead generation strategy in the same year, the issue is no longer the note itself. The issue is that every new idea gets treated like a fresh start. So here is what I want you to do. Write down every lead generation strategy that you're considering right now, and then choose one using the 3 following filters. Number 1, does it fit my business today? Number 2, does it fit my schedule? And number 3, can I repeat it consistently for at least 30 days? If the answer is no, it is not your strategy right now. It might be a good idea later, but it does not belong in your current plan. The goal is not to pick the most exciting strategy. The goal is to pick the one you can actually execute. The second step is to define the exact behavior. This is the part most agents skip. They say, I'm going to do open houses or I'm going to work my database. And then they wonder why the strategy feels unclear. That is because the strategy is not a behavior. Open houses are a category. The behavior is how many you host, how you promote them, and how you capture leads. Database is a category. The behavior is how many people do you call, what do you say, and what do you do when they do not answer? The same goes for everything else, such as for sale by owners and expireds. It's a strategy. How many and how often are you calling? What does your weekly schedule look like? This matters because vague effort is almost impossible to improve. If an agent tells me that they tried an open house and it just didn't work for them, my first question is, what exactly did you do? How many open houses? How many signs? How did you promote them? How many doors did you knock? How many conversations did you have? This is where the truth shows up. A lot of agents do not have a lead generation problem. They have an undefined behavior issue. So once you pick one strategy, define it in a way that can be measured. If your strategy is opens, your behavior might be host 2 open houses per week, invite 50 neighbors before each one, capture each visitor, and follow up the same day. If your strategy is database calls, your behavior might be to run a quarterly client appreciation event or a quarterly touch plan. And then the handwritten note idea is sort of embedded within the strategy. See, strategy first, then behavior. Now the strategy is no longer floating around in your head. It has a shape. And once it has a shape, you can actually improve it. The third step is to set a real commitment window. This is where the just stick with it advice needs to become specific, because telling an agent to stick with something is not enough. Stick with it for how long? Under what conditions? What are we measuring, and when do we review it? See, for most agents, I would start with the 30-day execution window and a 90-day evaluation window. Let me explain. The 30-day window is where you prove you can actually do the behavior. You're proving that it's not a habit that you just need to force. You're not judging whether the strategy is the best strategy of your entire career either. You're judging whether you can actually execute it consistently. Do you wake up out of bed every day and get excited to do the thing? The 90-day window is when the strategy starts to produce better evidence. By then, you should have enough repetition to see what is working, what's not, where your follow-up might be weak, whether it deserves more time or needs to be adjusted. This is important because most agents leave way too early. They do the strategy until the beginning stops feeling exciting, and then they call it a pivot. And listen, pivoting can be really smart. There are times when a strategy really does need to change, but there is a difference between an informed adjustment and quitting because the middle got a little uncomfortable. Let's say an agent goes all in on expired listings. They get the script, they block the time, they start making the calls, right? For the first week or two, they feel pretty good because they're doing something uncomfortable. Then the rejection starts getting old. The conversations do not turn into appointments fast enough, and almost magically, another strategy starts looking more attractive. Filming content or doing open houses might seem like the answer. And then maybe another thing might be the answer. And then that other thing starts to feel invisible. So then you start to do, neighborhood farming. Every new strategy gives the agent a little bit of hope. And that hope it's not a bad thing, but the danger is when the hope starts to become more attractive than the discipline of sticking with it. The beginning of a new strategy might feel clean, but the middle is where the truth shows up. That is why the commitment window matters. It protects you from making emotional decisions too early. So here's the action step. Write this down before you start. For the next 30 days, I am committing to this new strategy. Insert blank. The specific behavior is fill in the blank. The numbers I will track are fill in the blank. The date I will review the data is fill in the blank. That turns the "I'll try it" into an actual business decision. The fourth step is to track evidence, not emotion. This is the difference between an agent who is guessing and an agent who is building a business. Most agents judge lead generation based on how it feels. If it feels exciting, they think it is working. If it feels boring, they think it's something that is just wrong. That is a terrible way to run a business. You need numbers, not complicated numbers, just simple evidence that tells you what actually happened. Track the activity, track the conversation, and the follow-up and the appointments. Track the results. Let's just go back to the open houses example. How many did you host? How many people came through? How many real conversations did you have? How many people did you add to your database that you then followed up with? And then finally, over time, how many appointments came from it? Another example, if your database is your bread and butter, and inviting your database to your client appreciation events is the way that you generate business, how many referrals are you getting on the spot versus over time? Look, we all know that the database is probably one of the hardest things to measure and the hardest things to predict, which makes measuring the numbers that actually matter all the more important. For example, if over the course of 12 months you host 4 client appreciation events and the person that you get the most referrals from doesn't actually show up to the events, but they take your call before and after the event every single time, are the events actually working? The answer is an overwhelming yes. They might not have worked in the direct sense, but the event itself did the job. Track these numbers. Without numbers, all you have is the mood. Without the facts, all you have are your feelings, and your feelings can lie to you. Just imagine you are standing on one side of a river, and on the other side is the business that you say you want. Consistent clients, a healthier pipeline, less feeling of panic and more control. So you start building a bridge. Let's just say that bridge is open houses. You build a little bit of it, but then it gets repetitive and the first few leads do not convert. Another bridge starts looking easier, so you leave that one unfinished. Then you start building the expired listings bridge. You make the calls, you take some rejection, and do not get the result fast enough. So you leave that one too. Then you start building the content bridge. A few posts go out and the views are low and nobody calls you saying, "Thanks for posting. I would like to sell my house." So you leave that bridge too. And after a while, you look around and wonder why you're still stuck on the same side of the river. But the answer is pretty obvious. You are standing in a graveyard of half-built bridges. A finished bridge can carry traffic, a half-built one cannot. This is the line. You cannot judge a strategy you never actually built. You need enough evidence to know where the bridge is worth finishing. And that evidence only comes from repetition. The fifth and final step is to create a shiny object parking lot. Because let's be honest, you are going to get new ideas. You're going to go to a training, you're going to hear another agent talk about something that really worked well for them. And those things might sound really cool to try. And don't worry, that doesn't make you unfocused. It just makes you human. The goal is not to kill a good idea. The goal is to stop letting every new idea interrupt your current plan. So when a new idea shows up, park it. Put it in a note on your phone, Google Doc, or a good old-fashioned Post-it note. Don't act on it immediately. Give the idea somewhere to go without giving it control of the wheel. This is simple, but it works because it removes the pressure to either act on the idea or ignore it forever. You're not saying no, you're just saying not yet. Then set a review date. At the end of the 30-day window, look at your data and your parking lot together. What worked? What improved? What deserves more time? And what idea still looks useful after the emotional high has worn off? That last question is incredibly important. Some ideas only look good when they're new. If an idea makes sense after you have completed your current commitment window, then maybe it deserves a place in the next plan, but it does not get to hijack the current one. That is how a real business owner makes a decision, not by chasing the emotional high of starting over, but by collecting evidence. The rule is simple: stay with the strategy long enough to earn the right to judge it. So if you want your real estate lead generation to start working, pause before you go looking for the next thing. The next thing might not be the answer if your current strategy never gets enough time to become measurable. Ask yourself a better question: what strategy am I willing to stay with long enough to honestly improve? That question will probably tell you more than another training video, script, or platform, because a lot of agents do not need a brand new strategy. They need to build on the one they already chose. And if you're tired right now, be honest about what kind of tired it is. Are you tired because you're building something, or are you tired because you keep starting over? Those are not the same thing. A real estate business is not built by touching every strategy for a few weeks. It is built by choosing a bridge, staying with it long enough to learn and improve it before you abandon it. So before you start another lead generation strategy, write down the ones you have already started this year. Pick one that fits your business, define the behavior, set the commitment window, track the evidence, park the distractions, then finish the bridge.